Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I want to talk about what Vanguard Zombies should do in order to improve itself, because I think a lot of people are kind of in agreement right now. This is probably the most, in agreement the Zombies community has ever been about a Zombies game. Usually it's pretty split, Cold War especially. You had people absolutely despising it, you had people absolutely loving it, even BO4 was like that, but for this year, I feel like it's probably, at least for the Twitter community and the YouTube community, the people online talking about it, it's got to be at least 90% of the people absolutely hating what they gave us on launch. Of course, there's a lot of people who are excited to see what comes later on, but I think a lot of people are in agreement that there's really just not much to this game. It's not really that the gameplay is bad or anything, it's just there's nothing to it. It's one of the most bare bones, plain Zombies experiences we've ever seen, and it's very different than anything else we've ever seen as well, which just begs the question, why? I understand why there's not much to do and there's not much to it itself, and that's just simply because Treyarch did not have the time to. They were rushed to do this, that's very clear. They were working on Cold War Zombies, probably were told, okay, stop making content for Cold War Zombies and start making content for this next game, and then they have to split their studio up because people had to finish maps like Forsaken, and then they had to have the other half of the studio go make Vanguard, probably all over the place, and that just forced them to have to rush a product rather than spending time to making a completely new original map. But I'm going to be realistic for this video. I'm not going to spend time telling you guys that I want a whole Spaceland quality map or a Shadows of Evil quality map with tons of side quests, a major Easter egg, a bunch of wonder weapons, all this cool stuff, because that's just unrealistic to ask for right now. I'm just asking for what they should do right now, what we can get within literally the next month and what we should get within the next month. And of course, I don't really expect them to pop out a whole new round-based map within a month, so I'm going to be, bringing up some realistic criticism for this game. I do hope that down the line we do get content like that, like completely original maps with your traditional round-based modes and Easter eggs and stuff, but I'm not really holding on to hope for it, because there was an interview where they were actually asked about round-based content for DLC, and the response was something along the lines of saying that they're going to be focused on making new objectives, new enemies, and new intel, or something of the sort, and I just thought that was such a weird response to that question. They didn't really say no or yes to it, but they just said that they're going to be really focused on new objectives, enemies, and intel, which it sounds really boring for future content. In my opinion, that's all we're gonna get. I'm sure there's gonna be more than that. I'm sure there's gonna be more maps and modes, but what types of maps and modes? Are we just gonna be seeing more multiplayer maps thrown into Zombies? I hope not. But for what they can do right now and what they should do right now for Der Anfang, let's talk about that. First things first, give the fans what they want and just give us a round-based mode on Der Anfang. And it wouldn't be that hard to do. This isn't asking for much. I'm not a game developer, so I can't speak to specifics of what they would have to do, but they already have all the assets in place. Is it really that much more difficult? All you have to do is just make it so you spawn on Der Anfang, you just spawn in the Stalingrad area, and maybe you can have 3 teleporters that take you either to Hotel Royal, you can go to Shinonuma, or you can go to the windmill area, and just have it so the different content is scattered around these different areas. You can have different perks around these areas, the 5 perks that they have in the game. You can have different wall buys, you can have the box that can go around to these different areas, you can get Teddy Bear and it can go to a different area. You can obviously still do the objectives, and I think this would be kind of cool if the objectives were optional in this mode. It would still be your traditional round base where the rounds go up, you still have your pack-a-punch there, but the objectives will give you more rewards, more salvage, more points, so they're good to do in order to do that. But if you just want to train around and kill zombies till endless rounds, you can do that. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of high rounding and just going around in circles for hours upon hours, but there's tons of people who want that, and they don't really like the whole objective atmosphere of the Der Anfang mode. And if we were able to just play traditional high rounds, that would be fantastic. I mean, it would give players a way to just play zombies like they used to play. I mean, we've always had the ability to play zombies like that. On literally every single zombies game since World at War, they've never not done a mode like that where it's just traditional survival. Just keep going to as many rounds as you can. I know some people don't like that anymore. They want something different, and I agree, I want something different. But why remove that original thing just for the sake of a new mode? Why not just keep both of them? It's not like you have to have one or the other, and I feel like everyone's arguing that you have to have one or the other, and I don't get that. Just give us both. It's not that complicated. I've been saying that for a long time for Cold War. Outbreak was a really cool idea, but why not just also add traditional round-based to those Outbreak maps? People would love that, because not everyone wants to play these new modes. People want to play on these new maps, but they just want to play the traditional standard Zombies experience, and you can still have those objectives that they have there in order to spice it up and at least give you something to do. Now, personally, I would love a big-ass Easter egg, and they did say they're going to be adding an Easter egg with Season 1, or at least towards Season 1, which is good. That means we're going to get some sort of an Easter egg on this Anfang mode, but I just don't see why they couldn't also give us a round-based traditional mode on this map, because that would just make the most sense to me. Now, I'm just talking about what we have now, the mode we have now. There's still a lot more they can do with this mode, and I do expect them to do this, but I don't get why they couldn't do this at launch, like right away. First of all, we need more locations. I think this is very, very bare bones when it comes to locations, because you have the Stalingrad area, which isn't really that big, and it's literally just for multiplayer. Then you have the Hotel Royal area, which is, again, also just for multiplayer. And then you have Shinonuma, which is just a classic original map, but it's just a little tiny area of Shinonuma. It's not even that big of an area. And then you have the windmill area, which I'm not sure if that area is in campaign. I'm assuming it's in campaign just because they've already been reusing assets for everything else. It wouldn't surprise me if they also reused assets for that. But I don't mind nearly as much when they reuse assets from campaign as much as I do when they reuse it from multiplayer, because reusing it from multiplayer is like, I'm going to play these multiplayer maps again and again and again. So when I'm just playing on those same locations, it does feel kind of plain. But campaign, you play campaign once, you probably never play again. A lot of Zombies players aren't even going to play the campaign once anyways, so I don't really see the issue with reusing assets from campaign like they did in Cold War a lot. They reused a lot of campaign assets for the Cold War maps. I never had an issue with that, and I honestly don't have an issue with that here. So I think it would have been cool if they reused more campaign locations rather than using really any multiplayer locations, and it could have just been a more original experience because of that, at least to the players who care only really about Zombies and don't really care to play the campaign. But multiplayer, I mean, come on, I played Hotel Royale like 100 times already by now, from the beta until now. I played it enough, and so when you're playing in Zombies, and it's a restricted area too, it's not like you can play on the whole map, you can only play on a certain section of it, so it definitely just feels like there's not enough to explore in Anfang. I feel like I've seen everything there is to see on the maps, and I don't know why they don't have more maps. I mean, just take them from multiplayer. It's not that hard. If you want to take them from a campaign, take them from a campaign. Take them from anywhere, but we just need more. And then objectives. Only having 3 objectives is so damn boring, man. I can't tell you how bored I get of these objectives, and it's not like they have to do some crazy new thing to keep me interested. There's little objectives they can do that I don't think would take them more than like a day to put together. Like, I'm not joking. They don't have to do some crazy new things. I have a million ideas just off the top of my head. They can literally just do a mini boss fight like objective where maybe you have to go up against those minigun guys, and there's like 3 of them instead of just a normal one, and maybe they have a little bit more health than usual. There, you have a fourth objective right there, literally just like a little boss fight against a couple of those minigun guys. You can have one that's an onslaught of the Tormentor-like bosses. I don't know the name of them, but you can have an onslaught of those. It's just those guys that just keep running at you. Boom, there's a 5th objective. It's just survive a wave of those guys. Like, there's so many little things you can do. I don't get why they don't just do it, because what they give us is these 3 objectives that we keep repeating over and over and over again, and they're just not fun. I mean, one of them is just harvesting these little things and then putting them into this like a crystal machine thing. That one is fine the first couple times, and then I'm just like, okay, I don't want to do this again. And then there's the escort one, which you escort this little skull, which it's a cool challenge, but like, we need more, because we keep repeating the same ones. It gets so plain. I mean, if you go to round 15, that means you've probably done the same objective like 5 or 6 times by then, and it's just like, damn, I just want to do something different. And it's not that difficult for them to just add something different. I really don't see why it would be. I would understand it being difficult if it was a whole new challenge with this whole new set of assets, but I'm not even asking for new assets. Just literally make objectives based off of things you already have in the game, or you can take things from multiplayer and port it over. I don't know, but there's so many ideas I feel like they could be doing. Of course, I expect them to add objectives, but I kind of feel like they're gonna just be like, oh, we have one new objective for season 1, and it's like, oh, who fucking cares? Like, one new objective? Like, that's not something to get excited over. Like, that's not something I would care about. I mean, you look at Outbreak, right? I can't believe I'm gonna be saying positive things about Outbreak, considering I wasn't a big fan of Outbreak, but there's a lot of things about Outbreak that I feel like is much better than what we have here even. So Outbreak had tons of objectives, and every area had like 3 like mini objectives and then 1 main objective, and then a couple minor things here and there. And we're down to just 1 objective per area. Now, of course, the areas work a little bit differently here because there's these little small areas rather than these big wide open areas. But I mean, come on, Outbreak had like 10 plus different objectives, and we only have 3 right now. It doesn't make sense to me. Not having a wonder weapon or Pack-a-Punch camo is also really strange, and you might be like, well, yeah, they have to, you know, they don't have time to make a new wonder weapon. They don't have time to make a new Pack-a-Punch camo. I don't even care if it's new. Literally just port something over from a prior game or port something over for multiplayer. I really don't care. I don't think it would be that complicated for them to do that. I don't think it would be that, you know, insane for them to just make a Pack-a-Punch camo or literally from assets from another game or from another thing. I don't know. Maybe they could have just ported over the ray gun. I know story-wise it might not make sense to have a ray gun, but who the fuck cares? Like, give us something to mess with rather than just these typical guns, which I'm honestly kind of bored of using already, which gets into my next point. The guns just, they're not well balanced, I feel like. They get really weak really fast. There's maybe a few guns that get better in the high rounds, but most of them are pretty bad past like round 15, which I know that's typical for any zombies game, and they tend to get kind of weak after a certain amount of rounds, but like this is like too soon almost. I mean, round 15 in this is kind of equivalent to like round 30 or 35 or something for typical zombies in terms of the damage and health and stuff like that, but I don't know, it's feel like you get to that point too soon, and when you get to that point it's like, well shit, like there's no wonder weapon to rely on, there's no traps to rely on, so you're just kind of relying on the covenants as well as your weapons just dealing little bits of damage at a time, and it just makes the rounds tediously long, which is why I don't do high rounds in the first place, so I don't really care that much. But there's nothing else to do in this game. It's literally just go to as high of a round you can, but it's not like a traditional round base because you have to do these really annoying repetitive objectives again and again and again. So there's just so many things about this mode that just kind of irk me, as I don't want to do that. And I want more to do beyond what they're giving us and what they're actually trying to make us do things. It's like they're trying to give us a mode that's more interactive without actually being more interactive than traditional zombies. You know, that probably sounds really weird, but it's exactly how I feel. And I see people saying stuff like, well, it's better than what we got in World at War at launch, or Black Ops 1 at launch, or Black Ops 2 at launch, and I'm like, okay, and? Like, that was 10 years ago. Like, that shouldn't matter anymore. We were completely satisfied with Nocturne and Toten because we didn't even know we were getting zombies in the first place. Black Ops 1, it was Kino. I mean, you gotta see an advancement over time, right? That's the important thing. We don't compare Star Wars special effects in the sequel trilogy to the original because that would be unfair. Back in the original trilogy, those effects were amazing back in the 80s, right? But then you come all the way to today, if you were using those same effects, they would be looked at as terrible. And that's the same here. Like, you can't just expect us to get the same experience as what we got 10 years ago. Now, of course, this is more content than what we got in those games, but is it more than what we got in Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare, World War II, Black Ops 4, or even Cold War? No. And when I say content, I don't mean the number of maps, or the number of guns, or the number of perks, or number of abilities. I don't mean that. That's not what I mean when I say content. That's important, yes, but that's not what I mean. When I say content, I mean what is there to actually do in the game. And right now, all there is to do is just playing through these endless rounds of tedious objectives that are very linear and don't give you much options. There's not much choice there. You don't get to choose what areas to go to. You don't get to choose what objectives to do. You don't get to choose what to do in this game. You're just forced. The only way to continue rounds is to do these same objectives over and over and over again. There's no exploration. There's no intrigue. There's no side quests. There's no hunting. There's no anything, really. It's just the same thing over and over again using what we have available to us in order to progress these rounds. There's no option there, right? Even you go back to Keynote or Toten, at least that map, to progress rounds, you had more options. You could train in the theater area, you can train in the first room, you can use the thunder gun and camp in a corner with your friends. You can do a lot more different things, right? There's no choices here. You're just doing the same objectives in whatever order the game tells you to do. That is the issue I'm having right now. That is the main issue for me. I love objectives, I love side quests when they're given, but there should be optional things. There should be another means of getting things in order to progress the rounds, in order to get better weapons, in order to get more points. They should not be forced upon you in these really repetitive atmospheres. To me, Zombies is at its best when it's this very interactive experience where you're kind of exploring a map, and the first time you play it, you're going all around finding new things. You're like, oh, this is cool, and every room has something important. I think a best, example I can come up with is Spaceland. Spaceland to me is one of the most interactive Zombies experiences. Every room has something different. You have arcade machines you can play. You have the different games that you can play around the whole map. You have different traps that you can use that kind of go off of different actual rides. You have actual rides like the roller coaster that you can ride. You have the ticket system that can reward you with all sorts of things. You have all sorts of wonder weapons to build, and of course you have the main Easter egg quest, as well as another whole Easter egg quest beyond that main Easter egg quest. You use so much to Spaceland that the map never really gets boring. This doesn't have anything to it. This has nothing replayable to it. I've played it like 4 or 5 times and I don't want to touch it ever again. Of course they're gonna add more content down the line, but what is the new content gonna be? Because if the new content is just gonna be more locations added to this, more objectives, maybe a wonder weapon down the line, that's cool and all, but that doesn't really fix my main issue. I think that's definitely a problem that we don't have those things, but we need something way beyond that. We need a mode that actually has replayability, because yes, although adding a pack-a-punch camo, a wonder weapon, and a couple more objectives would be nice, that's not going to fix their Anfang. It's not going to fix the core issue with this mode. It's definitely something that should happen, but it's not going to fix it. What needs to fix it is really just a whole new mode. I don't mind having this as a side mode, but this is not a main Zombies mode. It does not feel like a main Zombies mode in any way, shape, or form. It feels more like an Onslaught-like mode, which was a PlayStation exclusive mode for Call of Duty Cold War. It was not the main mode. It was not the main map. It wasn't the main thing we play Zombies for. It was just a side thing if you get bored of the main map and you just want to try out something else for a little bit. That's fine and all, but this is not something that should be the main mode for this game, and I don't think it would cost Treyarch much time in order to somehow put a round-based mode on this map, and I don't think it would be that tedious or that annoying for them because they already have all the assets there. It's just a matter of putting the assets in different places, really. That's all it has to be. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say for today. I don't really anticipate on uploading much more Vanguard Zombies content, at least for a while, at least until they add new stuff, because to be honest, I don't really have any motivation to play it more, so I'll probably do some more multiplayer videos for sure, but in terms of Zombies, I don't really know what else there is to do, so yeah. And it's not like I don't have ideas or anything, it's more so I just don't want to play it, so it's like if I don't want to play it, how am I going to come up with the content, you know what I mean? So that's the main issue there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will see you all in my next one. Peace out.